Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Cindy, and on this channel we do a little bit of baking, budgeting, and beyond. Today we're gonna make one of my favorite cakes that I remember when I was growing up. My dad was a preacher, so you know there was always some church function, and Mom used to make this a lot. It's a heavenly hash cake. So that's what we're gonna make today. So let's get ready. I've got my oven preheating at 350. I've washed my hands so we can get started. So our recipe calls for sugar, oleo, which Mom always said that's margarine. And it's funny because the frosting calls for butter, so I don't know why they would use two different things back then, but anyway, because this is a really old cookbook. This is one of my favorite cookbooks. So we're going to use 2 cups of sugar, 2 sticks of butter. We're going to use a half a cup of cocoa. We're going to use 4 eggs. It calls for a teaspoon of vanilla. We're using 1.5 level 1.5 level cups of all-purpose flour. And coconut's optional. I'm not going to put coconut in it. I'm actually making this to take to work tomorrow, and some of the girls don't like coconut. It calls for a cup of chopped pecans and then marshmallows. So what we're going to do is we're going to cream the sugar, which I've got 2 cups measured out here. And we've got 2 sticks of butter. Remember, a stick is a half a cup, but it just actually calls for sticks. Cream that. Okay, once that's all combined, then we're going to add in cocoa, which is a half a cup of cocoa, and we're going to add in 4 eggs. And then we're going to add in the vanilla, and it calls for a teaspoon. This is double strength, so I'm just going to use a half a teaspoon. So a capful would be a teaspoon, so I'm using half of a capful. All right, so we're going to let that go some more. Okay, now it says add the flour, so I've got a cup and a half a cup. Remember, I poured it into the measuring cups and then leveled it off, so it says beat this for 2 minutes now. And while that's doing that, I'm going to spray my pan. I'm using a disposable pan, so I don't have to worry about washing it and bringing it home at work. So I'm using my pan baking spray that has the flour mixed into it. And like I said, don't ever spray this over the floor. You'll have a slick mess. Okay, now we've beat that for 2 minutes, so I'm going to add the nuts and just mix it up real good. Okay, now we're going to put it in our pan here. Take the beat. And it's a fairly thick dough, so I'm going to stir it up real good, make sure I've got it all incorporated in the bottom. I'm going to get it so y'all can see it. I'll just scoop it out. I'm not that coordinated, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm going to spread it out in the pan. So it's floured and greased with the spray. And when it cooks, we're going to take it out and we're going to put marshmallows across the top and let it go back in for just a second for them to melt. We'll put it on the middle rack, and that's going to bake for 30 to 35 minutes. So I'm going to let that cook for 30 minutes, and then we'll put some marshmallows on it, stick it back in the oven for just a second, and then we will frost the cake. So what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to take and sprinkle marshmallows on top. My husband's like, I don't like marshmallows. I said, well, I'm sorry, but that's what this cake is. You can eat it or you can not eat it. Actually calls for a jar of marshmallow cream, but I don't think my mama ever bought marshmallow cream. She always just put marshmallows on it. I'm just going to stick it back in the oven. I'm going to go ahead and get started on the frosting. It says to take a stick of butter, put that in, a half a cup of milk, Mom always used canned milk, but I don't have any, so we're just using regular milk. Cocoa powder, a half a cup, and a teaspoon of vanilla, so I'm using a half. Pull it back out until it comes to a boil. And then we're going to pour it over the powdered sugar. I've got a box of powdered sugar back here in my mixing bowl. Put vanilla in too quickly, just regular vanilla extract. It does take away the flavor. The marshmallows are probably semi-melted, and then we'll do this and pour it over it. We'll pour it over this. I'm just going to pour this over here. This is when an offset spatula comes in handy. That should help those marshmallows melt on down. I'm gonna let this set up for just a little bit. Come back and we'll get a piece out and see what it looks like. Y'all hang tight. Chocolate decadence. Good stuff, I'm telling you. Oh, and that's heavenly hash, the old-fashioned way. I started out with this video thinking I'm gonna make heavenly hash because that's what Mom used to make, and I just remember her making it, and so, you know, we made it, and then I decided, you know, there's these recipes now called Mississippi mud cake, and I thought, I want to see what the difference is. So what we're going to end up doing is a comparison between the heavenly hash cake, which is an old recipe, and the Mississippi mud cake recipe. So I have found this Mississippi mud cake recipe, and it's on Pinterest, and it's Lily in Kitchen's site. So we're gonna make this, and we're gonna compare it, and we're gonna see which one's the best. So one of the things I like about this one is the cake part does not call for a mixer, which y'all know I've said before, I don't like messing up any more dirty dishes than I have. For 1 stick of melted butter, so I'm gonna put that in there. And then it calls for 2 cups of sugar, which I've already measured out here. And then it calls for a half a cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, which, like I said, I like to use Hershey's. And then 4 eggs slightly beaten. So I've got fresh eggs, so I'm gonna break them in a small bowl to make sure they're okay individually before I use them. And slightly beat them, and then add them to what we've got in here already. And we'll use my whisk. You could use a fork if you don't have a whisk. And that's what a lot of people use to beat eggs. Slightly beaten them. Put them in here. And it says to take and mix these 4 ingredients together with a whisk. Or stir them together. Hey, if we can get by without a mixer, I'm all in. Because y'all know how messy I am. Okay, so we did that. Now, it says to stir in the flour and the chopped pecans and the vanilla. So, for 1 teaspoon, I'm gonna put in a half of mine. My super strong Mexican vanilla. Oh yeah, this is easy, y'all. And then a cup and a half of flour. Just put that in there. And now I'm putting in a cup and a half of flour, nuts. The nuts, using nuts here. And it says stir that up. All right, so there's that. I'm gonna go ahead and spray my pan. What's the difference in the recipe? The other recipe, the heavenly hash, you use 2 sticks of butter. This one you just use 1. Let's see, the sugar's the same, the cocoa's the same, the eggs, vanilla, flour. It only used 1 cup of nuts, and we're using a cup and a half now. And it called for a jar of marshmallow cream, but remember, I just put the marshmallows on top. Okay, so I've got it out of the oven, and I put a toothpick in and it came out clean. So now what I'm gonna do, it calls for a whole bag of marshmallows, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave one little end without marshmallows because, you know, they don't like them in my house. And actually I used a half a bag on the other one, and I forgot to mention earlier I washed my hands before I got started. Anyway, okay, so I've used the other half of a bag. You can put a whole bag if you want. I'm going to put it back in the oven for 5 minutes and let those melt. That's doing that. We're going to make the frosting. Yeah, that's better. I don't like for my head to be cut off. Y'all think, who is that talking to me? What we're going to do is we're going to mix 1 pound of powdered sugar, which is a box. The bags you get, the big bags are 2 pounds. So let's see, we're going to whisk that together with, or we're going to mix it together actually with the hand mixer, 1/4 of a cup of butter. So that's already different because it was a whole stick in the icing last time. But we're going to take this 1/4 cup of butter. We're going to use a 1/2 cup of milk. And this one calls for 1/3 cup of cocoa. And the other one used a 1/2 cup. So there is just a little bit of difference in these recipes. Get this open. So we're using 1 pound of powdered sugar, 1/3 cup of cocoa, 1/4 cup of butter, and 1/2 cup of milk. And then it says just mix it up. So we're going to use the hand mixer. You can always, if yours seems a little too thick, you can put a little bit of milk, a little bit more milk in it, okay? So that's all mixed up. And I just kind of pull it up a little bit and put it on high and clean off the beaters. I've probably got somebody over here that wants the beaters. Okay, so now let's see if that's ready to come out of the oven yet. Nope, we still got 3 minutes. Okay, so we've got this out of the oven. It was in the oven for 5 minutes. You can, well, hope you can see the marshmallows are pretty much melted. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna spread this chocolate frosting on top. It says just kind of swirl it on there. Okay, so we've got this spread on here. So I'm gonna let this cool a little bit, and then we'll come back and I'll cut a piece. We'll see what it looks like. Okay, be right back. Okay, so this is what it looks like, and I'll take a better picture so you can see it. It's a lot more gooey and scrumptious looking. I'm gonna try it. Oh, yes. This is more like what Mom made. Just that little bit of difference in the recipes. This one wins to me. So I will tell y'all, I've started a blog, and the address, I'll put it down below. But I'm going to compare these two. I'm going to put both recipes on the blog and compare the two and what I feel like are the differences. I'll tell you, the only other thing that I think would really set this off, and it would be totally different, is to take and, like, where you use cocoa powder, use half regular unsweet cocoa powder and half dark cocoa powder. And that would make it really good too. That would totally change the flavor of it. But anyway, this has been an interesting comparison, comparing an old recipe to a newer recipe, and I hope y'all have enjoyed it, and I appreciate you stopping by. Please subscribe, like the video, and share the video, and check out my blog post. Like I said, I'll put it down in the description box so you can go there, and the recipes will both be there, and you can try both and see what you think. Anyway, y'all have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.